Hello everybody, Corey here. We're going to go over the daily trades and holdings for July 1st for the single stock, YieldMax ETFs, and YBIT. Just a reminder, I'm not a qualified licensed investment or financial advisor. I just gather the data presented to you so you make your own decisions. YieldMax ETFs are extremely risky. Please make sure you understand the risk involved in these and do your research before investing in these. All right, so we're going to look here at the trades tab. Now, we're not going to stay on this tab long, but please see that we talked about this before I was gone, before I left or whatever, before I went to New York, that they changed the way that they post the trades now. So we used to look like, I don't even know, because I had to redo stuff, and I still don't know exactly how I want to do it, but we used to have them like this. They had their own little sections with their data, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be like that anymore. They all pull in one report. So what I did today is just similar to what I used to have to do with Ulti, do a bunch of manual manipulation, and theirs also don't come in alphabetical order. So once I've done all this, all the data here, whatever I need to do, then I sort it in alphabetical order, and then at least for today I have put the lines up underneath these to separate these, which I wouldn't have done if I'd have thought about most of these aren't closed anyway, so it didn't really matter, because I would only go over the closed ones. In fact, the only one that has a closed transaction was Crash, and that's because they had too many contracts here for the long call from last week. So if we look at the holdings from last Friday, just to show you here, so we had 485 for the synthetic, right? And then we have our short put here at 45. Well, if you look at our long call, there was 508. So they had 23 too much there for the long call. So they did have to, whether this is truly closing them out or just updating the spreadsheet, maybe they entered it wrong on the trades. I don't truly know. But either way, they needed to adjust that here. And the rest of these are just adding to or new positions for this week. So we can go over those here on the holdings tab. So let's go to the top because I did not have this actually set up. So let's make sure we have everything. And there we go. So we will start with Airbnb here at the top. So for the trades for today, they added 40 contracts to the synthetic and the short call that they already had. And then you can see the total prices there. I know we have a lot of new people. I guess I need to do more videos to explain most of this, but here in this case, basically they just added to the positions they already had. It was for 40 contracts, and then this is the this right here is the total price of the trades that they either the money that they received or the money that they paid out. And so then here is our actual holdings. So we have our synthetic and short calls. And for all of these, with the exception to those that are the short versions like Crash and Fiat and Rotten and all those, we want our stock price to be above our synthetic strike price and below the short call strike price. So we usually want it between those two numbers. Of course, that's not always possible, as our synthetics are usually done out months in advance. And the stock price changes, and it may end up going down further. So sometimes you'll see your short call strike prices will actually be below your synthetic strike prices. But in this case, you can see synthetic 145, short calls 152.50. So we prefer it to be the stock price to be between the two. And I'm just noticing that these are messed up. So let me look real quick to see. I know that was like that before. Hold on. Let me recopy the formula over because we have the stock prices in there, so that shouldn't be an issue. Oh, I know why. Because I need to change these to be specifically for this stock. Usually I don't like to hard code anything, but these are actually hard coded. There we go. So now those are fixed. Okay, so in this case, you can see over here, our stock price is currently 151.63, so it actually does fall between that, which is why you'll see both of these are green, because it's where we want it, right? So for the synthetic, we are 5% above the strike price, which is where we want it for the synthetic, and then for the short call, we are 1% below the strike price, which is where we want it. And so that's why those are green, and then when it's not the way we want it, they will be red. And so that will help guide you a little bit there. And then yeah, so I'm trying to think of what to go over, but a lot of you are new. So, of course, we have our contracts here, even though I know they have shares on their holdings. And then this is the price per share, and then this is the overall market value. And this column here is to try to help you see how that affects the share price, because the market value, right, up here we have like negative 94,000, and down here we have negative 5.4 million. So the way to help you identify how that affects the stock price, we have this column. So in this case, being over the synthetic strike price 5%, is actually bringing the stock price up $1.05, based on our the market value here of our synthetics. And then for the short call, based on that, it's bringing this stock down 16 cents. It's always going to be negative, but the most, or the least amount it would be is negative 1 cent. And then, of course, this is wrong because let's go back over and fix that formula too on the original holdings, because all of these are going to all right. So there we go. So in this case, this is just estimated that in this column, in this right here, we're estimating that we possibly have about another 12 cents that the ABNY or ABNY stock can go up 12 cents up to the 152.50 strike price, which is only like another 90 something cents for Airbnb there. But ABNY there can possibly go up another 11 or 12 cents. And again, this is just an estimate based on a formula. And the stock price, and understand here that the stock price could go up more. It just depends on the market value of the short calls and the synthetics. I think a lot of the times the stock price can keep going up because the synthetic will go up more than the short call will go down, but that is not always the case. So I've seen it not do anything, even possibly even go a little bit in the other direction. It just depends. And what I mean by that is here we have the 152.50. So once that gets above 152.50, obviously there's no more upside. And in fact, it'll start costing us more money. Well, this right here could still keep going up based on this market value. But then again, it may not. It just, again, depends on the market values. And then over here, of course, we have the day before's close price, the current close price, the NAV, and then we have the yesterday and today's for the underlying, and then this right here will sum up the market values in this column here. So like if we had closed out the short calls for today, that's how much it would cost to close it out. And then if we had to close out the synthetics, that's the total price it would cost to close the synthetics. And then you have the net assets and the outstanding shares here. So that just gives you a quick overview of the first one, especially since we have a lot of new people here. And now we'll just go through the rest of them. I won't read every single number here. Our most important things are going to be our short calls. Of course, we do have some of these synthetics expiring here in the next few weeks, so those are going to be somewhat important as well. But normally we're just concentrating more on the short calls. But we do have a lot of these. I think most of these synthetics will expire in July. Ones that maybe haven't been rolled yet. And I usually have these color coded. Since I've been out, obviously I haven't updated them, and I did not do that today, so I'll do better. But usually I have the color coded, like red's going to expire this week, yellow's next week, and so on. So I will have to get my color codes updated for the dates here. But we're going to move on to AIYY. So we don't have any trades to go over here for this. We do have our short call that expires this Friday with a $29.50 strike price. And we're currently 3% below that, which is only like 89 cents. So, but we do have a possible upside here for AIYY of about 35 cents there for that short call. If we move on down to AMDY, we do have some trades here, 250 contracts they've added to the synthetic position and created a new short call with a 160 strike price, which are currently under 1%. We also have the 162.50 and the 167.50 strike price for the short calls are underneath those 3 and 6%. So the majority of the contracts are at the 167.50. So it looks like we could possibly get, not up to 90 cents, maybe additional, up to about 90 cents more for AMDY stock, possibly here if we can get AMD back up to 167.50. So I'll see how that goes. Also note here for our synthetic, it does expire in about 2.5 weeks. And we're currently underneath that strike price by 4%. And then if we go on to AMZ here, they've added 140 contracts to the synthetic position and created a new short call with a strike price of $200. We're currently underneath that 1%. We also have a 207.50 strike price, which we're currently under by 5%. The majority of the contracts are the 207.50 strike price. And it looks like we have about $1 or so upside here for AMZ for the short calls. All right, so Aptly, no trades today. We do have 2 short calls that expire this Friday, 2:15, which are already over by $1.75. And then we have 217.50, which we're only under by 75 cents. So the majority of the contracts are sitting at that 217.50, but I don't know that we have much upside here for our short calls. If we do, it might only be a cent or two there, but again, it could go up further depending on the market value of the short call and the synthetics. If we move on down to Coney, we have no trades here to go over. We do have 2 short calls, 230 and 232.50. We are currently over both of these. We closed today at 233.37, so we're up about $11 there. So we're over the over the 230 strike price by $3.37. This is where the majority of our contracts are sitting, almost 28,000. And then we have the 1,000 or 1,100 at the 232.50, which we're over around 80 or so cents there. So no upside here for the short calls, but the stock could go up based on the synthetic value there. Dizzo here, no trades. We do have a short call that expires Friday with the 103 strike price, which we are currently under 5%. Possible upside of 85 cents for that short call. Phoebe, no trades. We do have a short call with a 525 strike price, which are under by 4%. It gives us an upside of about 75 cents should the stock price go up to 525. GDXY, we have no trades. Short call of 34.50. We're only underneath that 2%. So we have about 33-cent upside there for the short call. And then I forgot. So my apologies. I don't have to look at the synthetics very often, but for the Dizzo, you can see that our synthetics expire, and it's about 2.5 weeks, and we're currently underneath that strike price by 7%. And then for GDXY, same thing, about 2.5 weeks, and we're underneath that strike price by about 11%. We move on to GUI. They added 85 contracts to the synthetic and the short call with 185 strike price. You can see we have 2 short calls that expired this Friday, 182.50, which were over by 49 cents, and the 185, we are underneath at 1%. The majority of the contracts are at the 182.50 strike price, so I'm not sure, how much upside we'll have here for the short calls, maybe a few cents. It looks like today we only went up 5 cents for GUI. If we move to JPMO, we don't have any trades for today, but we do have 2 short calls that expired this Friday with the strike prices of 202.50 and 205, which we are above both of these. We closed today at 205.45, so we're above the one by almost $2 and the other by 45 cents. So no upside for the short calls themselves, but you might be able to the stock might be able to go up based on the synthetic market value. And those do expire in 2.5 weeks, and we're actually above that strike price, so that's good, because it's looking at the daily roundup earlier, we only had a handful, I think, of the synthetics that were actually above the strike prices. So then we have Murney here. They added 90 contracts to the synthetic and created a new short call for the week with a 119 strike price, and we're underneath that currently by 3%. But we also have short call strike prices of 125, 127, and 129, and we're underneath those 7, 9, and 10%. The majority of our contracts are split between the 125 and 127 strike price, so we're looking at about maybe 55-cent upside here for Murney based on the short calls. It looks like we went down about $3 today, and the stock only went down about 30 cents. Just looking at it over here. All right, let's move on to MSFO. So they added 30 contracts to the synthetic and short call. Short call strike price is $457.50, which we are under about 75 cents. So we only have a few cent upside here for the short call. And then we're barely above that synthetic price. And so again, I forgot the synthetic for Murney here. It does expire in 2.5 weeks, and we're underneath that 28%. So we move on down to Misty. We have they've added 185 contracts to the synthetic position, and they've created a new short call with the $1,467.50 strike price. We also have the 1505 and the 1540 strike prices. We're underneath all of these 7, 9, and 11%. And then we also have our synthetic strike price, and we're underneath that by 12%. Let's see, the majority of our contracts for the short calls are sitting at the 1505 strike price. So it looks like we have a couple of dollar upside here for Misty if MicroStrategy can go up some. Can go up to, what is that? The 1505 strike price. If we go down to Nestle, they've added 15 contracts to the synthetic and created a short call with a $682.50 strike price, which are currently under 1%. We also have the 695 short call strike price, and we're underneath that by 3%. Possible upside of about 53 cents here for the short call for Nestle. In fact, looking at this, Netflix price did not change today. However, Netflix did go down a little over $1. NVIDIA here, they added 1,800 contracts to the synthetic, and they created a short call with a strike price of 127. We also have short calls with strike prices 129, 130, 131, and 132. So we're underneath those anywhere from 2 to 6%. The majority of the contracts are sitting at the 131 strike price with 55,000 contracts. So we're looking at about $1.30 there upside for NVIDIA for the short calls. All right. So OARC, no trades here for this today. We do have a short call of $44 strike price. We are at $44.45, so we're over that by 45 cents. And then we have our synthetic that expires in a couple of weeks, and we are underneath that by 1%. If we move on to PayPay, we have no trades. So we have two short calls, $59 and $60 strike prices. We're underneath those 2 and 4%. I don't know. We have about an upside of about 30 or 40 cents here for PayPay for the short calls. All right. So Snowy, no trades for today. Two short calls. Strike prices 134 and 139, and we are over both of these by 3 or 7%. We closed today at 142.77. All right, let's move on to Squee. No trades. One short call that expires Friday with a $65 strike price. We are underneath that by 2%. Looks like we have about a 35-cent upside for the short call. Of course, looking here, Squee was up 4 cents today, while Block was down about 66 or so cents there. And the synthetic here expires in about 2.5 weeks, and we're currently underneath that 9%. Tesla. All right, so we have one short call with a 205 strike price, and we're over that by 2% today. It went up. The stock price rose about 12% today, which I think was about 6%. So very interesting. So it came up somewhere around 55 cents for the Tesla stock price. All right, so I have Zomo here with no trades. We do have the short call, the 117 strike price, and we're currently underneath that by 2%. We do have the synthetic that expires in a couple of weeks, and we're only under that 4 cents. For the short call, it looks like a possible upside of about 30 cents for Zomo if we can get up to 117. All right, then let's look at crash here. So we have two short puts that expire this Friday, 187.50 and 190. So Tesla is above both of those, about 10 or 12%. But then we have the synthetic here, and we want the stock price to be below the synthetic, and instead it's above it by 23%. So that synthetic being above it that much is bringing the stock price down $3.73 a share. So the stock actually dropped $1 just today. If we had to close that synthetic out today, it would cost $24.6 million. And the synthetic actually expires, and the long call there expires in 2.5 weeks, on July 19th. Let's see, our outstanding shares is at 525 now. I'm curious as to what it was on Friday, 525, so it didn't even go up today. All right, so then we go on to YBit here. So they added... That's interesting. Trades. So they have the 2100. So that makes me wonder, did they not execute the short call on Friday? Because we can see here that they, added 2,100 contracts. That's these three lines, but then they have this additional one for 7,345, which then makes me wonder, is that some that they didn't execute from Friday? Usually, though, they've done them all on Friday. And they did not. All right. They only did half of them, which usually they'll do like half Thursday and the other half Friday. It's usually all done on Friday. I think that's the first time I've seen one actually carry over to a Monday. All right. So that's what happened there. So, and then again, they must have used a 2. Yep. So there's a 2 here on this short call and not on this one. But that's why that one is separated and why one short call is at the top and one is at the bottom. But anyway, so we have two short calls. You see the $22 one and then the $22.50. We are above the $22 one by 15 cents and below the $22.50, 2% or 35 cents. we don't have much upside here, seeing that most of these are split. I mean, there's a little bit more at the 22.50 than the 22, but so there may be a few cents upside for the short calls themselves, but it would not be much. And these synthetics don't expire for another month, or almost. Well, no, it is a month because today is July 1st and these are August 2nd. All right. And that is it for now. Of course, we know we'll be adding a few more here shortly. And I don't remember if I said it at the beginning of the video, but I apologize for the last two weeks in New York, and I didn't do a great job and didn't put a lot of thought into it, even though all these months, I've been making sure doing this every single day. And now I'm regretting not doing it the last couple of weeks because I am missing some data where I didn't have my computer out and somewhere readily accessible, and making sure I'm doing everything while I was away. So I apologize for that. And now I've been playing catch up, and I am missing some data, which is very unfortunate. But anyway, if you are new and I failed to go over something, just please feel free to ask me, and I'll make sure I'll cover it next time. I will get these videos posted, and then I'll go over the weekly and estimate video with the calculations, though some of them, at least for the premium received, may be a little bit lower than it should be, just because I may be missing some trades or don't have the 100% accurate trades due to the New York trip. But anyway, I will talk with y'all later. Bye.